I've been blind my whole life, and what I found to be most challenging about being blind is other people's misconceptions about blindness. So I grew up hearing all kinds of things, like what does she want to eat when I'm at a restaurant? Or people would give other people credit for work that I did because they wouldn't assume that I would be in charge as a blind person. People talk louder to me. They assume that I can't take steps, that I have to use an elevator. So people, when they see me, as well as many other blind people, people have ideas about what should happen next. So what I find is that I'm constantly having to educate people about how to treat me. Expectations that they have about blindness need to change, and it can be burdensome some days, whether it be people wondering if I can cross the street on my own, or people wondering, can I handle a work project? I started school at Holy Assumption School, and there was a resource room for the blind. So we went to the regular classroom for much of the day, but we spent some of our time in the resource room learning the tools of blindness, such as Braille and cane travel and other alternative techniques. The woman who was our teacher of the blind was Sister Mallory Stoll, and she was my resource room teacher from first grade through 8th grade. She was an amazing woman. She's still alive today and actually worked with blind kids for over 45 years. And Sister Mel really believed in us. She knew that we could excel. And my fondest memory of Sister Mel is it's really a memory that goes over time, that I knew that Sister believed I could do whatever I set my mind out to do. And she found every possible way to build our self-esteem and self-concept. And she also worked with our parents, helping parents to understand about blindness and help our parents understand that, they just needed to treat us like their other children. Sister worked really hard to give us all kinds of opportunities as children, whether it be ballet class, piano lessons, or taking us in the summer to her a cottage that her brother owned, so that we could swim and use the inner tube and do what all kinds of other kids do on a regular basis. She's an amazing woman. I'm a blind parent of a 22-year-old man, Christopher, who is now a wildland firefighter. My husband is also blind. And when I was pregnant, we spent a lot of time talking to other blind parents about how to do everyday things as blind parents. And we wondered, what it would be like to be blind parents. And, we worried about typical things, giving medicine, monitoring our child. And ironically, the things that we worried about became no big deal. There are all kinds of alternative techniques. What was a challenge for us as blind parents is dealing with other people's attitude about blindness. I can remember going walking in the neighborhood with our son when he was 4, and people would come up to him and say, "Oh, Christopher, actually they wouldn't use his name. They'd say, you're doing such a good job taking care of your mom." So people would put our son, no matter what age, in a parent role and treat us as the children. So people didn't really believe that we could parent as blind people. I remember one woman saying, "Oh, but I'm sure you're going to be having a nanny so that you have a sighted person around to take care of your son." So having people believe that it really isn't possible as blind people to raise children independently was a constant challenge. It would come up in many different ways. It's interesting being a blind parent and watching other blind parents raise their children. I find that many times children of blind parents are very well behaved, and what we needed to do is have really firm rules and guidelines for our son Christopher. I couldn't just look across the room and say, stop climbing the bookcase, or on our deck, I couldn't just look out the door and say, stop climbing the deck boards, Christopher, on the side, the planks. And so we needed to stay really close and teach Christopher how to be independent. So I remember he was climbing on the coffee table, and a friend said, "Oh, he's going to get hurt, he can't do that." And I said, I want him to learn how to climb, because I might not be at arm's length to be able to grab him. He needs to learn his own abilities. And Christopher was a very cautious child, and I think we were able to instill some carefulness in him as we were careful in raising him. When he was little, he held my hand when we would go places. He wasn't the kind of kid that in the store was going under the clothes racks and running across the mall. He was always with us. And when we gave him more independence, he had the tools to be independent and the security to show independence. So we gave him more independence as we saw him grow and mature. And in fact, today, Christopher's a wildland firefighter and takes all kinds of risks. And Bill and I both believe as parents that it's because we gave him security early on, and gave him opportunities to grow and change, and didn't challenge him before he was ready, but continued to challenge him over time, have him problem solve for himself, take public transportation, and now he can go into any city and get anywhere he needs to go independently. In looking at what career I wanted to do as an adult, I can remember in 9th grade wanting to help others, wanting to listen to others and help give people support. And I thought about what career would best fit that, and started thinking about psychiatry, moved to psychology. And as I was ready for college, I took on a degree in psychology and then moved into a master's degree in social work, because what I really wanted to do is have the degree that would give me the most opportunities to actually work with people in an in-depth manner in solving their problems. And early on, I just really liked to listen to people's stories. I loved hearing about people and their lives. And as I heard about people's challenges, I really wanted to make a difference in the world. And probably the biggest challenge in working with others is helping people find their inner strength and their abilities. And what I found is that people can be incredibly different from each other, and we need to honor their uniqueness, but we also need to look at how people are similar, and all of us have the same feelings, even if the experiences are different. And in fact, much of my work as a social worker was in group work, and I was amazed at the power of helping people help each other and helping people find that, we have very common feelings that were very much the same, whether it be hurt or sad or angry, and we can really gain strength from each other. And my biggest challenge is helping people find that commonality among their differences. I remember one of my very first interviews, young blind adults and taking on a therapy job, and they said, "Well, you can't see what people's facial expressions, and there's so many things you can't see. How are you going to be a therapist?" And I said, what I find is that actually people give us so much information. The challenge is to sort through that information, and there's so many different ways to figure out what's happening with people.